So, yeah, look, first of all, thanks, Bill. And I just wanted to start really by thanking you all for having me here and the opportunity to talk to everyone. It's actually quite humbling because I was only here in this room with you, with a lot of you a year ago. I do know a lot of you, you're all familiar, and actually quite a lot of you are not as well. Really, I just want to start the presentation. I'm not going to go through a whole bunch of slides. I'm just going to talk about a few things, by really primarily giving you the kernel of what my presentation is, and I wanted to thank Maria Kuhn for that word, the kernel of the idea. I like that. And then talk a little bit about my experiences up until starting art school, because that contextual stuff is relevant, and then a little bit about the Arts Factory and how that came to be, and then maybe a little bit of motivational guff about what it is for us to be artists, but also how we can close that relationship between what it is to be an entrepreneur and what it is to be an artist. So when Bill spoke to me about coming down here, it was really on that basis that I would talk about entrepreneurship and specifically about the Arts Factory. And so before you all zoned out, I did want to give you that kernel up front. And that is, the kernel is basically what is it that we generally understand about what it means to be an entrepreneur, and what is an entrepreneur, and of course, how does that relate to me, and how does that relate to us in this room? So I spoke with some academics about it. Unfortunately, I know a couple who kind of specialise in this area. Did a little bit of reading about social innovation, cultural entrepreneurship, and asked really what is my idea about it, because I don't necessarily see myself as an entrepreneur, but I have been referred to as one by those who are far more knowledgeable than I am. So entrepreneurship is perceived as many things, both negatively and positively, depending on your point of view. As Bill was saying, it can be viewed to be quite dirty. However, it can be viewed as a business mindset, as someone who is innovative in their sector, or brings an idea to a marketplace to fill a need or a gap. So an entrepreneur can be someone who sets up a cafe or a bar in an area there are people but no services, and then in the process they make that service unique and make it really different, and make it offer something different. Or it could be someone who goes around and collects free bikes and old bikes, refurbishes them, and then sends them to a developing country. Or they could set up a community garden in the local area, or sell their art in some capacity, in some form, wherever that is. So an entrepreneur can be motivated by profit and personal wealth, or they can be motivated by profit as a means of helping the community. I like to think that I fit into that kind of second category. But when you boil everything down, my perspective on what makes an entrepreneur is someone who has the ability to see an opportunity in a problem, to have an idea that allows them to think in a creative or in a different way about a problem, and then create solutions to solve that problem. So to me, that's that's how I relate to what an entrepreneur is. And so this ability is an asset, and to anyone who has it, and generally speaking, it is actually an asset that most of you have in this room, and you have it in abundance, quite frankly, and because it's how we apply creative problem solving in our everyday artistic practices. And this is the link into the motivation side of the presentation towards the end, and it's about that big picture thinking as our ability to apply knowledge to solve problems gained in one area to another area. So a little bit about myself, contextual. So I'd always wanted to be an artist ever since I was little, but the journey of independence begins when you have to start learning to live. So my career experiences started back in '96 when I was involved in starting one of the first fast food sushi franchises in Sydney. And then in 1998, as the internet was really sort of coming to the fore, I had an idea to create an interactive travel website that used the local experience and knowledge of people on the ground in that area to create the content and the images for that website. I called it Your Friend in whatever country that was going to be. I was going to start with Bali because I had a lot of experience in that particular area. But I had no idea how to build it, I had no idea how to fund it, and so eventually really I didn't get to first base with that idea, which is particularly unfortunate because now travel services really are a major part of the internet. The point being more than anything is that my working career became a means of seeking out the jobs that would fill the knowledge gaps and gain me the experience that I needed to do what I wanted to do in life, which was eventually to retire at some point in time, hopefully wealthy, and become an artist. So a little bit back to front, I've kind of cut that and cover a little bit earlier. So whether that has been working as a tradie, selling websites, managing websites, or managing teams of people, which are all things that I've done, then these sets of experiences were always sought to complement those shifting sands and those goals in my life. And which when I reflected them, they are really just milestones, so they weren't the be-all end-all, as I predicted they might have been in my early 20s. So the long story short here is that now I'm in Tasmania, I'm graduated from the Fine Arts degree, I'm now studying a Master of Teaching, and the sand always continues to shift under my feet in terms of my goals. So the Arts Factory. The Arts Factory, back in 2003, the start of second year, there was a lot of discussion around the school about the quality of the services that were being offered here, and how as students we didn't feel that those services were being, those needs were being fulfilled. And that was primarily around the sense of community. We felt it was a deficit. You throw in quality of food, quality of coffee, elements like that, as well as a lot of siloing mentality around the different arts practices and different disciplines that exist within the school, both here and also with the other areas of discipline. So like in Launceston, we've got the Performing Arts, we've got the School of Architecture, we've also got the Con across the way. But there's no connection between any of these arts practices within the university, and I saw that as a bit of an opportunity more than anything. And so as the last of the summer cruise liners were kind of lining up across the road down here at Waterfront, I was bemoaning in my own head, how travellers that were coming off those ships just to be greeted by, concrete car parks, tourism traps, general lack of direction, services around them, and services that really could represent Tasmania and what everything that is amazing about Tasmania. I'm a immigrant from the mainland, so I'm not originally from here, but I absolutely love it here. So at the time, one of the things in this university, and might be still the case, is that it is abundant in empty spaces, and especially ones that front onto Hunter Street down there. And right on the corner, beside the car park, there was a great little space there with benches and water, and it fronted the street and it had a door, and you could see the passenger terminal out the front. I thought to myself, why couldn't we build a little shopfront cafe in this room? Why couldn't it be managed by the students from the Faculty of Business? It could be fitted out by the students of architecture, furnished by students from the furniture design studio. We could be selling artworks from artists here, and you'd have music performances from the artists from the Con. You'd have performing theatre coming down as well, doing stuff. Things that would engage the public, things that would bring the public an engagement, essentially. That's the idea, really, was to bring the public and expose them to the creative arts. So you've got a veritable showcase of university student talent, an opportunity there for that. Because you've got up to 100,000 tourists passing by, across the way there every year. So you could do things like art markets, you could bring people from across the way, from Salamanca markets to here, and really start to activate the spaces over here as well. So just take a moment just to imagine what that could have been, if we had got that set up. As you can imagine, I was pretty excited by that as a prospect, knowing that to make it happen, I needed to find the right people with skills to complement my own who could help drive this idea. And at this point, I want to really emphasise that one person with an idea is nothing. Without the drive and enthusiasm of an amazing group of people around you, or around the idea more than anything, then you don't really have anything, because really, that's what the Arts Factory had. That's why it got off the ground. It's because of the people, many of you, some of you are in this room, that were behind it and helping us get there. And that's, that's pretty special. So I approached another student, Alistair Doyle, who also immediately shared my excitement about it. And so we started planning it. We came up with a working title of the Arts Factory, and it stuck. It became the Arts Factory thereafter. Shortly after that, Michaela Ravel joined us as well. She was an honours student. She jumped in. She was really excited by the idea. She was having similar feelings about the university at the time, and we really felt like we wanted to do something positive about it. So it was really, humbling to see so many people believe in this idea, and that together we could really build that sense of community around the school and around between each other as well. So we had designs drawn up. We started a business and a marketing plan. We registered the business name and the business. We basically just fumbled our way through the process. So the cafe, the intention of it was that it would be university branded, supported as a program for aspiring students, used as a tool to promote the university brand to potential students globally. It would build the student community experience and Tasmania as a creative arts destination as well, as it kind of links in with the tourism aspect. So to get us off the ground, we needed to raise about 20 to 40K, which is not much, but that funding we thought would come from a mix of sources, like a grant from the TU, student services, amenities fees, Tourism Tasmania, and the Hobart City Council, and a little bit of seed money from that possible campaign that we run, which is about $3 grand that we raised, but not a huge amount. Our planning was that we would eventually fund ourselves by providing food and beverages to tourists and Hobart locals, who would flock, obviously, to get a taste of food there and be exposed to whatever creative vibe was happening out of that space at the time. It really began to snowball at that point in time, and we really got swept up with everything and the momentum of it all. And so by the end of the day, though, even with the support of the major community figures, with the arts community and Hobart City Council, without the support of the university, we just couldn't get off the ground. Now, sympathetically to the uni, its hands were tied by contractual agreements with the food and beverage service providers, and at many levels, we did find support for the idea, but not for its viability. So for 9 months, we tried to negotiate that up that line of command, even with the service providers, with the university, to see if we could kind of do a shared arrangement where they supply the food and beverage, and then the cafe would be managed by the students. But unfortunately, they weren't interested. So that's, at the end of the day, they saw it as being a competitor operating on the university property. But during that time, we were assessing alternative sites opposite the university, in front of the terminal over there, as well as just in front of the bridge where the new development is taking place. We had some container ship designs drawn up that we could have converted. But it went from costing 20 to 40 grand to 150 grand K plus. So we had $3 grand that we'd raised. It was going to be a long road to get that one together. But at the time, I was actually working up at Ginger Brown in South Hobart, delivering the rubbish behind the service station. And behind that service station, I saw a for lease sign on the warehouse. And I went, why couldn't we put those ideas that we had for the Arts Factory into this space, but unhindered? And so really that became that space where we could express these ideas that we originally set out to do. We did receive a bit of flack for doing that and taking that approach, but you'll receive flack for a lot of things that you do in life, and that's just part of it. That's part and parcel of it all. So with that $3 grand in the bank, no external funding at all, we negotiated a lease on the factory, advertised for studio spaces, and hoped to hell that we could fill them so we could pay that second month's rent. Now, with that money, we built an exhibition space, we built a bar, and we opened our doors and had a crack at it. And it's still going. I'm no longer involved in it, unfortunately, but a Master of Teaching is highly demanding academically, so it's one of those things. So the rest is history with the Arts Factory. Do I have still a little bit of time? trying to do that. That should be about 13 minutes, so everyone's zoning out by now. But I've got a bit of motivational stuff to kind of feed into that and kind of close the loop. Is that all right? So, to bring in these ideas about a cultural entrepreneur, and it's all about being a business entrepreneur because they are different things. And I just want to kind of separate those. So, and how that relates to you all in this room as emerging artists. And it's that opportunity for us that artists lie not in how we make ourselves more effective at managing our art practices as a business or making our artifact or idea more user-friendly, because that's not necessarily the case, although they are good skills to have. But it's more in how do we educate the audience so that it has a better foundation of creative literacy. Because we are talking about the artistic discourse within the broader community. And in my mind, an audience that understands the language of art is one that understands and values creative practice and its ideas, and is then more prepared to pay for it. So the education of the public is tantamount to ensuring the punters are willing to recognise you as artists for the work you have done to get to this point. And that's about taking pride in the work that you've put in to get to this point of graduating. And part of that is putting on that silly gown at the end of your year and going and graduating, because it's about taking pride, because what you have achieved is of great value, and the integrity of what you have done has great value to contribute to society as artists. Now, there is a general view of artists that we have, and sometimes even of ourselves, that we're a bit of a freeloader class. I think that only seeks to feed that great exploitation of us as artists, and we don't need to do that. Let's get out there and educate people. Let's educate ourselves about thinking differently about how our art practices can relate to an audience more effectively. So that means being prepared to think differently about your art practice, about what you think today will be different in 5 years. It will be different in 10 years, in 20 years, as our personalities and our beliefs are always changing. And we're always adapting ourselves and our arts practice is really entirely up to you. So I did have a funny picture to show you at the end of it. This is very much how I feel or see things sometimes with the arts practice.
I talked about that last week, people play exposure.
Yeah. So I think this is a big part of the thing that I get on about is that artists deserve to be paid for what they do. That volunteerism, as great as it is, and that it makes things happen, like the Arts Factory, we need to start recognising ourselves as artists and we deserve to be paid for that. Thank you.